If you are excited for the Browns versus Panthers Week 1 matchup where we get to see Myles Garrett beat the crap out of Baker Mayfield, then spam Go Browns, because you know what? Football is now officially back. I am crowning it. It was not back in the preseason. Football is not back in the preseason. Football is back when all 22 starters are on the field, like they will be this Sunday. So give me a Go Browns down in the comment section. You can't wait for Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, realizing I'm wearing Panthers colors today. That was not intentional, so just ignore the blue polo I put on this morning. But here's what we got coming up on today's show. The latest Jack Conklin injury news about where he stands in terms of whether or not he will be ready for Week 1 against Carolina. Plus, Myles Garrett returns to practice. We're gonna catch you guys up on everything that's happened on that front. Plus, the Browns have made 4 roster moves over Labor Day weekend, so we'll just sort of recap everything that's gone down. But let's start the show off with a Jack Conklin injury update. So Kevin Stefanski said Conklin has a chance to start on Sunday. I found it interesting that he used the word start. Kind of makes you wonder, would he come off the bench? I don't think that's an option. Either he's starting or he's not playing. Now, this is very dependent on how Conklin looks in practice this week. Today is Tuesday. The Browns are off on Tuesdays, so we'll see how he looks on Wednesday. Fingers crossed. But let's keep in mind that Conklin is sort of at the ceiling of what was a realistic timeline for him to return, okay? He had that torn patella tendon against the Ravens November 28th last season. He hopped off the PUP list August 1st, which is important, okay? I want to make that known right now. If the Browns were worried that Conklin might miss the first week 2 or 3 of the season, they would have kept him on the PUP list. That would have opened up an extra roster spot. Sort of like last year, when Odell Beckham Jr. missed the first 2 weeks of the season, but came back for week 3. If they thought he might miss the first 3 weeks or first 4 weeks even, they would have put him on short-term IR or kept him on the PUP, and that would have opened up a roster spot. But no, they are confident he is returning. They have a roster spot for him, so that is why they are ready to see him. If it's not week 1, my guess is for sure week 2. I also think it's important to note Jack Conklin was really good last year. Let's not forget that. Before he got injured, and unfortunately, his career has had a lot of injuries, from a torn ACL to a torn patella. But according to PFF, he was one of the best tackles in football last year, ranking 20th out of 83, 78.8 overall. And what I love so much about Conklin's game is that he is so well balanced, right? He is not just a run mauler or a pass blocker. He's got a great 1-2 punch, and he has been anchoring down this right side of the line for a while. Now, the depth chart here for the Browns has shifted a little bit over the last 3 to 4 days. We're going to go over all this in more detail, but no more Drew Forbes. Instead, we're seeing guys like Haeg on this offensive line for the Browns. Now, if Conklin is unable to go, it'll be Chris Hubbard who steps up and starts in spot for him at right tackle. But let's look at Joe Haeg, one of the newer members on this roster, in a little bit more detail and no longer, in my parents' library back home from this past weekend. So last season with the Steelers, he had 2 starts, played in 12 games. Before that, he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs coming off the bench in 3 games. And then he was originally with the Indianapolis Colts to start his career, where he's shown, hey, this is not a starting offensive lineman, but this is a great depth piece, and you'd be happy to have him come in for a pinch, not for a whole season, but if you need him as insurance for Jack Conklin, and if Chris Hubbard, who only played in 1 game last season, goes down with an injury, this is clearly the insurance policy Andrew Berry has invested in. Now, speaking of some other roster moves made, Drew Forbes, he was released by the Browns in order to make room for 2 guys they added this weekend, and he was claimed by the Detroit Lions. I am sure the Browns would have loved to have seen him on their practice squad, but ultimately the Lions snatched the former 6th-round pick out of Southeast Missouri State. Unfortunately, Forbes we never got to see much of him, right? Back in 2019, only played in 3 games, had an injury that season. He sat out for COVID in 2020. Last year, he had an injury. So the Drew Forbes experiment never really took off, never got to see much of him outside of training camp and preseason, but best of luck to him up in the Motor City. Let's move on to the Myles Garrett segment of today's show. So he returned to the team facilities Monday afternoon, early evening, after missing practice. Unfortunately for Myles, he has been dealing with a personal matter. This started back in June, at least it was first reported, dealing with a close family member who has an illness. Just thinking the best wishes right now for Myles Garrett, right? Not football related here, but wishing him well, wishing the Garrett family well. Reports are he's expected to be ready and available and 100% ready to go for week 1. But some things in life are bigger than football, believe it or not. So let's just show Myles Garrett some love from the Dog Pound. Let him know that all of us here at the Browns Report are thinking of him, thinking of his family, and hoping the best for him. So let's type his jersey number 25, 95 down in the comment section below just to let him know we got your back. Now, speaking of Myles Garrett, he's going to play week 1, and he's going to go up against a rookie left tackle, Ekwonu, or Icky for short, the 6th overall pick by the Panthers out of NC State. And Icky was asked, so could you have asked for a worse matchup, basically, for your first start in the NFL? And he gave a kind of a candid answer of, I don't get to pick who we play, but it's going to be tough sledding. Yeah, it is going to be tough sledding. Now, Ekwonu, if I can elaborate a little bit more on this matchup, was known more as a run mauler when he was with the Wolfpack at Raleigh. Now, he also was picked 6th overall because he's a pretty big dude and he's hard to get past. In fact, we got a celebrity producer today, Marshall Green, who's too big for us now at Giants Now. He talked a lot about Ekwonu when he was debating between whether the Giants should get him or Evan Neal. And Icky looked pretty good. Ain't going to look pretty good week 1 going up against Myles Garrett. Every year we see this, right? Rookie tackles picked in the top 10 sort of get knocked down a pedestal when they have to go up against players rushing the quarterback that aren't from Wake Forest. No disrespect to the Demon Deacons. Myles Garrett is on a different level. There could not have been a worse possible week 1 matchup for him than Superman, who's got this unknown balance of speed and strength. He doesn't have an Achilles heel, right? He doesn't have a low point in his game. I would wish him luck, but I do not. Let's talk about some Noti members here at the channel before we wrap up the show and get into some other news and rumors. So I just want to give a quick shout out to some of you guys that are early in the comments section, that are active in the comments section. And hey, if you want to be on screen, turn those notifications on like Herman does, Bo, Joshua, S. Brabson, KJ and Grant is an MVP of the Noti gang, Nathan, Nick, Kenny, my guy Jim, I always want to say Cougar. I think it's Kogar. But Jim's always popping in the comment section along with Andrew Scott and so many more. Only got room for 10. So, hey, turn those notifications on if you have not already. Let's get to some other roster moves made. So, Jesse James was signed by the Browns this weekend in a move we knew was somewhat, predictable. We knew that the Browns were going to sign a tight end. They were not going to go into week 1 with Jacoby Brissett and only have 2 tight ends on this roster, Njoku and Bryant. Now, Jesse James in his career has bounced around a little bit, went from the Lions to the Bears to the Steelers, and all in all, for a 3rd tight end to have 12 touchdowns, not too shabby right there, right? I mean, I saw a lot of Jesse James when he was with the Bears, and last year he didn't play much with Pittsburgh. I think this was a solid pickup to have as your tight end 3. I liked this move a lot by Andrew Berry. He wanted to see if some, UDFA like Nakia Griffin-Stewart or Zaire Mitchell or Marco Santos Silva, Texas Tech legend, could maybe get, some Jimmy Graham in him or some Antonio Gates. Ultimately, he falls back on a more proven, reliable tight end in Jesse James. Now, before we wrap up today's show, I want to tell everyone watching about BetUS. our proud sportsbook partner that's got awesome deals for all of you watching right now, including a 125% deposit bonus when you go to chatsports.com/bet. Now, I have already preached to everyone to take the Browns money line, but I know more about football than just the Cleveland Browns. So here's another game I kind of like a lot. What about the Jags plus 2.5? Right? I think Trevor Lawrence is going to look like the first overall pick he was this season. So I kind of like Jacksonville going up to Washington with 2.5 points already in the bag. That's going to be one of my picks this weekend. Make your picks at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125. So as the Browns made some signings this weekend, we knew there would have to be corresponding moves. And one of those moves was the release of Jordan Kunaszyk, who was later added to the practice squad, according to Cameron Justice. So that is, and we'll look at the whole practice squad in a moment. But without Kunaszyk, here's what the depth chart looks like in the linebacker room. JOK and Anthony Walker are going to be your two linebackers on the field for majority of the snaps. When the Browns do decide to go to a more traditional 4-3 front, it'll be Taki coming on the field, but ultimately just 5 linebackers on this depth chart for now, with Jacob Phillips and Tony Fields backing them up. Now, let's check out the Browns practice squad here as it begins to get filled out completely. Rosen, love John Kelly on this practice squad again. Mike Harley Jr., I thought that was a great snag for the P squad. Dalen Baldwin, Zaire Mitchell-Payton, Miller Forrestall, Brock Hoffman. In case something were to happen, I'm not going to say it, but to Posick or Michael Dunn, I suspect Brock Hoffman will be the next one promoted. Alex Taylor, Roderick Perry, David Moore makes the change from offense to defensive line. And then here we got Isaac Rochelle, probably the best overall player on this practice squad. No disrespect to Josh Rosen, an absolute legend. No, he's not. Dakota Allen, Jordan Kunaszyk, Sean Jolly, Herb Miller. And that leaves one open spot. I am suspecting that the Browns will fill this spot sometime before week 1. I think they're just not in a rush to put someone on there just because, right? They're going to see as other teams make some waiver moves and make some releases and some claims, if a spot opens up that, you know what, we would like that guy joining us here in Cleveland. All right, before we send you guys on your way, predict the score for me for week 1. Browns versus Panthers. I am taking the Browns. I think, like I said in my prediction video, it's going to be a Yorker game. I am dubbing that now. Cade York, walk-off field goal, 24-21. Marshall Green, he has been beating the drum of, he's drinking the Kool-Aid of Baker Mayfield revenge game. Marsh, you want to hop on and give us your score prediction for this game here? Because you've been pretty big on Baker Mayfield's return, and he's going to get sweet justice.
What's the line here? What's the line?
So the line is moved, but it is now Panthers minus 2.5. What do you think?
I think that's a fairish line. I think Baker goes off week 1 and then goes back to Baker in week 2.
Who do the Panthers play in week 2?
The Giants.
Oh, the Giants! Oh, that'd be your team. Who would have saw that coming? All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Appreciate all of you guys for taking time to tune in and make us a part of your day. And we will see you all later with more Browns news and rumors.